The Houston Texans head west to face the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday Night Football. Houston's installed as a 5.5-point favorite on BETDAQ. 41.5 the total here. That's a low total. If you like defense, you are going to love this game. The Texans lead the NFL in total defense. That's yards per game allowed. The 49ers third in the league in that same category. So we expect the defenses to dominate here. Now, both these teams probably a little disappointed at 2-2 after winning their divisions last season. Houston has just been a weird team this year. The Texans, as I mentioned, lead the NFL in yards per game allowed, and they're fourth in the league in total offense, meaning yards per game on offense. However, they've been outscored. The Texans allowing 26.3 points per game, only scoring 22.5 points per game. So despite the fact they rank top 4 in both total offense and total defense, they've been outscored. That is just very unusual. You'd be hard-pressed to find a team with a similar profile. So where does that leave us? I'm not sure. One thing I do know, though, is this team is not as good as they were last season. I've seen the Texans play 3 times this year, and while they do have an excellent defense, there are some problems on offense. They're not running the ball as well as they have in years past. And Matt Schaub, I think his time might be done in Houston after this season. I don't know how he can recover from last week's performance. We'll see Sunday if he's recovered yet, because Schaub single-handedly threw away that game against the Seattle Seahawks. Fans were burning his jersey in the parking lot after the game, and with good reason. Listen, the interception he threw at the end of that game, still cannot get that out of my head. Absolutely inexcusable. If he would have just fell down, just ate the ball, the Texans would have won the game. They had a 7-point lead in Seattle territory, 2 minutes left with the ball, and Schaub threw a wounded duck. He had no business throwing across the field that Richard Sherman intercepted, ran in for the game-tying touchdown. Seattle went on to win the game in overtime. Most disturbing thing for Texans fans had to be what they saw in plain sight. Not only Texans fans, but Texans coaches, management, everybody watching that game saw Matt Schaub morph into a loser. A loser's body language. He hung his head, looked like he had a little bit of bottom lip quivering or something like that. I mean, I'm telling you, Matt Schaub looked frightened of the Seattle defense at the end of that game. And, if he would have just sucked it up, the Texans had a chance to win that game. Even after Schaub's interception, the Texans got the ball back, could have won it at the end of regulation, and they had 2 possessions in overtime, but nobody watching that game thought that, at least nobody I was watching it with, thought the Texans had any chance of scoring in their last 3 possessions. That's because Matt Schaub was in full head-hanging self-pity mode, when his counterpart, Russell Wilson of the Seattle Seahawks, was just the opposite. Wilson was personifying belief and the feeling that he was going to make this happen. And sure enough, he did make it happen. And sure enough, the head-hanging Matt Schaub left with a loss. I don't like Schaub's chances on the road against the 49ers this week. You can bet the San Francisco defense has seen the tape of last week's game. They saw Matt Schaub at the end of that game, the way he reacted to a couple of big hits from the Seattle Seahawks. I'm sure San Francisco is going to be coming after Schaub in this game, and I think they're going to dominate the Houston offense. Now, San Francisco has some problems offensively of their own. They have not been able to pass the ball well at all this season, 28th in the NFL in passing offense. So they should have some trouble moving the ball against this great Texans defense. But I do think the Niners will score enough to cover here. Again, they're 5.5-point favorites. The Texans, a terrible team on the road. Houston, 0-5 against the spread, their last 5 road games. So I think this number is a little low. I expected to see this number right around 7. I thought the Niners were going to be about a 7-point favorite. So I think they're good value at 5.5. This is not one of my favorite bets of the week. I'm not including it among my best bets, but I do lean towards San Francisco minus 5.5.